All right, so the idea that we were wanting to do, as I mentioned earlier, was this ParcelBot. So I need to run over here to this ParcelBot, or rather a parcel vendor. It doesn't have to be a specific one. See, my corpses are having issues while anonymous. Also interesting that somebody died in plane of knowledge. All right, so here's a parcel vendor. And let's see. So for parcels, I did leave MQ2 HUD up, and I did that for a reason because we need to actually pull up this HUD file and edit it. Maybe just open it with Notepad++ and add in my dev code so that I can get my windows to pop up for me. And I'll have to get that from another instance of MacroQuest. I'm doing this in the other window, so again, I apologize if you can't see. It is necessary for me to do it this way. Let's see if this one has it. That one does not have the code. I have so many copies of MacroQuest on my computer at this moment because some of them have code that hasn't yet been used. So I'm just going to go to my quick access, back up one folder, and scroll down to where the code is that I need. And there's the HUD file. Grab my development line and paste that in there. So now I can slash plugin. I need to go to a different window here. We don't need to read the chat. The chat is overrated, so I'll just scroll that down and do a plugin MQ2 HUD, and then load HUD dev, and oh, I don't have font sizes on, so let me change that real quick. Yeah, we'll go ahead and say on. I think that's automatic. Yeah, that's automatic. And then is it HUD normal? Yeah, okay. So if you do a HUD normal, it puts the HUD on top of your other windows so that they're not falling behind them. And now I can see all the names of my windows. All right, so I need to close out some of this other crap, and then I'm going to create a new file and save as. And we're going to put this in our new copy of MacroQuest. Under downloads, the test for 1109, into the release folder, macros folder, and then we're going to call it, I guess, parcel. We'll just call it ParcelBot.mac. And you may or may not need to change that from .txt to all types, but in some cases people have reported that they need to do that, so we're going to save that. Okay, so now we have our parcel.mac file here, and as usual we always need a submain and a return. Alright, so if you watch my previous video on window manipulation, we're going to, let me set something up on this other screen. See, I have the OBS recorder over here, and it's very small down here, so I can't see a whole lot, and the chat window sometimes gets obscured by windows I have open elsewhere. So let me try to change it to where I can see any viewer comments real quick. If y'all just give me a moment. See if I can just pull up twitch.tv on the browser. Let's close all these extra ones so it shows that I'm live over here. And make sure it doesn't want me to log in. Alright, so now we see that I can also respond to chat that way if I don't want to type. Alright, so again, starting with our file, we have our submain, and the goal here is to access some merchant with the option to do parcels and select the box for parcels, and then open all my bags and select an item that I want to send. Is this no drop? No, it's not. Alright, so we can select an item that I want to send, and it will put it down here, and then I have to type in someone's name and then send it, right? Um, so that's basically what we need to do, but first things first is we're going to need a couple of utility subs. One of those subs is to check to see if the merchant window's open, and I can see the name of this window is merchant WND. Based on our previous conversation, I can check to see if a window's open. So sub window check. We'll call it window check. And we're going to pass it the name of the primary window, right? So um, that's going to be a string, and we'll say what. So what window do I want to check, right? So there's no brackets here required. Um, I don't even know if it'll work with brackets, to be honest with you. Okay, so once you go down here, of course, we again need our return. And for the window check, what we need to do is make sure that if window what dot open, and then we're going to put our exclamation point at the beginning to say that we if it's not open, right, then we're going to want to do something. In this particular case, we're checking for the merchant window, but I'm going to do something a little new, and that's use a return and give it a value. So I'm returning true out of the sub if the window is open. We'll take the exclamation point out, okay? And then otherwise, in the normal return at the end of this sub, I'm going to say false, right? And one of the first things that I'm going to want to do as part of this macro is I'm going to need to have a section to declare variables, and then I'm going to need a main loop, right? And things to check before I get to the main loop. Just kind of as a like basic mock-up, kind of whiteboard this a little bit. And I don't have any variables at the moment to declare per se, but we'll go ahead and declare the name of the merchant I want to use. So I want to declare who. No, who is going to be who I'm sending to. Let's do vendor as a string. And we're going to make the variable accessible anywhere in the macro, so we're going to call it outer, and do Caden Zarek. All right, so that's going to be the vendor that I'm going to use. That's just a quick example. And then things to check before the main loop would be like plugins. So I can do a plugin, the name of the plugin. I'm going to want MQ2 nav dot name dot equal mq2 nav. I actually don't have nav for this test build. So let's not use nav for right now. Let's go ahead and make this an if statement, and then we'll comment it out. Say, I'll use an exclamation point. You can change equal to not equal instead, but I'm just doing it that way for now. So if it's not loaded, I want to plug in MQ2 nav, right? And then we're going to comment this line out because I don't have MQ2 nav on this particular character or test build at the moment. They patched it for a problem within macro, and obviously I can't make a video if macros crash MQ2 or EQ for that matter. Hey, what's going on, EQ Addict? I see you waving. Alright, so now that we have our plugin check there, what else might we need? We might need move utils. So what we can do is just copy this line here, paste it in, and then replace this section with the other plugin we want to check. So move utils, right? And then I'm just copy that whole chunk, right? And we could really simplify that by making its own sub and do like sub check plugin, give it its return value, and then come up here and say another string for what. And then in the box we could do our plugin check and replace all instances of the plugin name with the word what, right? So if no plugin, and say what, then copy this bit and say there and there. And this will just be a real simple check. And then instead of doing all of this every time, then I could instead say slash call check plugin MQ2 nav, and then slash call check plugin MQ2 move utils. And those would be my two checks, and it's going to shorten it because everywhere I have something in quotes at the end, which I'm passing as a parameter, is going into what, and then I'm checking what here. And it's only slightly shorter in this particular case, and there's other things that we could do, such as checking for meshes, getting bag counts and stuff like that we can do up here. But I want to go ahead and preset my main loop real quick. Alright, so we got a main loop, right? Now we need to get some information about Kden, and the hope is that it applies to all parcel vendors, but I doubt it will. So you can do some checks with echo and target dot some arbitrary information. So I'm gonna pull up my data.ini on a different screen real quick because I have to go into my actual MQ2 folder with character names and whatnot. So data.ini. Okay, I'm gonna drag it back over here so you can see. So this is the data.ini. I don't know how many people have actually seen me using this, but since I'm going to be developing this particular macro from the ground up, I'm going to have to actually look up some of the references. While I usually memorize a lot of things, I don't necessarily know all of the things that I could find out about somebody. In this particular case, I think I'm going to want surname. And the reason why I want surname is because this name directly below his actual name, where it says parcels and general supplies, that's his surname. It's not Zarek like it would be for a player character. It's parcels and general supplies in parentheses or whatever, right? So I can actually echo the target dot surname, and it will put it up here, parcels and general supplies, right? So something I might need to check is if that surname is going to have the word parcels, right? So this is our vendor, so we can say, let's put this outside the main loop as our check. So if spawn equals vendor, we're going to use his exact name, right? except we're going to do vendor is a variable dot surname. All right, so we already know the surname is going to return to parcels and general supplies, and surname is a string, so we can use one of our string members to say dot find, and all we're doing is trying to find the word parcel in that surname, right? And I forgot to put that in parentheses, so we can fix that real quick. Right, so if we echo this information, we're going to bring it down here so I can change it to actually say his name. So it was Caden, Zharik, right? And we're going to check that particular spawn, echo, to have a surname with the word parcel in it. And if I press enter, it says 1. And what the 1 is that's where it is in the phrase, the index of the first letter that it found in your find. So it found the P at the very first index, so it's returning 1. But the word parcel has an S. It's not required. It's kind of finding a string within a string, right? So I found that. I know that's true. So we might want to hold on to that information if we decide to use it later, but I don't know that all parcel vendors have the word parcel as a surname. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right? And this is a lot of my development part, is kind of guessing what may or may not be useful. All right, we got a subscriber, I think, or a follower, I think it is, in Twitch. Yes, new follower, EQ Addict. All right, so I don't necessarily use all the code that I'm going to put in here, but sometimes I just kind of whiteboard stuff and comment it out, that I may or may not need it at a later time. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that line at the bottom where I manually typed the name in to check the echo. Okay, so now we know who our vendor is, and we got the things to check before the main loop, and we're checking our plugins. We checking to make sure that the vendor's name has the word parcel in the surname, but let's see, we also need to do our window check. So I created that sub, but I never used it, so you might be kind of interested in what that return does. And if I call window check, okay, immediately following the call to window check, I need to provide a parameter to go as what. All right, so the primary window, so if I scroll here to the very top where the title is, it says merchant WND. If I put down here, it's something different, right? Anywhere else I put it, okay? So I want to get the main window's name, which is merchant WND. So I'm going to pass merchant WND. Doesn't have to be capitalized or anything like that. It's not case sensitive. And if I check manually again, so we're going to verify, right? merchantwnd, save, and we're going to echo that information again inside of EverQuest. And so, yep, that's true, right? So if I close that, then I need to echo it again. It's going to say false. So the window's not open now, right? And if I open it again, it's going to say true. Now, that doesn't change based on what tab I'm on, but as you can see, that one says MW Merchant Sub Windows, and it says that for all 3 tabs, right? And if we go back to our MacroQuest 2 site and pull up the wiki, we can go to notify, and it'll give us some examples. And what we're looking for is a tab select, which is here. So the example for the tab select says that you're going to notify the inventory IW sub windows tab select and then the number 4. And what that's doing, if you open up your inventory here, is that's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to open up the shrouds window in this particular case if we tab select 4. I need to tab select 3 to do this. So at some point we're going to have to verify that we're on this tab, right? So I can slash echo window merchant WND dot child, and then come down here and say MW underscore merchant subwindows dot text, or dot selected maybe, and we're going to echo that. So it's going to say no such window member selected. Um, maybe it returns which tab it's on by default. Nope, just saying true. What about dot text? Has no text. Dot tooltip, and I just kind of guess through them and until I possibly find what I need. So right now I haven't found what I need. Again, going to go ahead and refer back to the wiki. So I'm going to keep this notify window up for reference later, and then I'm going to paste it in there, and I'm actually going to do window because I need the data type for window. And we got, see, background color, check child, do open, do close, enabled, first child height highlighted, returns true if the window is highlighted. I don't know, we'll see, maybe. See, items, list, minimize, mouse over, my trade ready, name of the window piece, e.g. chat window for top level windows, or the piece name for child windows. Alright, so next is the next sibling window, bool is open, parent, select screen ID, sibling style, text tooltip type. I'm not seeing an option to reference a tab. So I do a search for tab. There's only one copy of tab, and that's on printable version, which is not what I'm going to want. Let's see here. So let's just try dot selected. Did I already try that? Hold on. There was one I highlighted at one point. First child items, minimize, mouse over, name, parent, select, highlighted. That's what it was. So let's click back in my chat box down here and do HIGH, false. I don't know that I can verify the tab is selected per se, but I can do a notification to that one every time I open the window or every time I try to use the window. So I can do /notify merchant WND MW underscore merchant subwindows tab select 3, and it will select the parcels. So I can make reference of that code, just bring that out of Max, and slash call, no, I don't want to call it, I'll just check it, slash if macro dot return dot equal true, then I want to notify merchant window MW underscore merchant sub. Jesus, can I type today? Windows tab select 3. And I did this as a block statement, even though I'm only doing one notification, because I also want to do an else statement. So if the macro's return is anything other than true, then I want to do something else. And that is, I want to open the window. So maybe I want to slash target, or let's check the distance from our spawn first. So if spawn equals ZHARIK dot distance, we'll do distance 3D for giggles, is less than 20, right? So if I go into this window check for the merchant window and it returns false, which would be the opposite of true is the only other option here, then now I want to check to see if the spawn cadence Eric, and I punched that in manually. I should have used this variable vendor, so we'll just replace that real quick. And the idea is that instead of changing it everywhere in the code, I can just come up here and change the name of my parcel vendor here, right? Hi Toasty46. All right, so now I've got the spawn and I've got it set equal to the exact name of my parcel vendor here, and I check their distance 3D and compare it to be 20. So the idea here is that if I copy this, right, and let's replace all this with just target dot distance 3D. I want to show you what the output looks like. So I'm going to target my parcel vendor, and then I want to echo target dot distance 3D. It's going to say 6.17. So I'm going to back up. Let's see. So click right target. Nothing. So I'm at 14.21. So I want to click right target again. Let's do something different. Let's invoke target dot right click. No? Oh, that's because the damn merchant window's open. I'm a fucking genius today, man. I'm on a roll. Alright, so let's try that again with my original click right target. Alright, so that one opens. Let me get my distance again. Of course, I'd have to have a target to get a distance. 15.95, 18, 19.65, and 20.4. Click right target. Looks like they're too far away. Let's inch forward. Alright, so again, do the target dot distance 3D. We see it's 19.28. So basically anything greater than 20 is out of range for me to right click on an NPC, right? So now we want to come in here and I can remove both of those. Right, so that's why I check for 20. It's not just an arbitrary number that I've added in. You know, I've worked with getting close enough to merchants to go ahead and right click on them and then check the distances to see where it was safe to do so, that it would actually work. And just light a cigarette real quick. All right. So once we've checked that the vendor is within 30, then we can go ahead and slash click right target. And all that's doing is saying to click, what to click. So I'm saying the right mouse button, and then what to click on is target, right? So in this particular case, I'm basically just right clicking on the target and it's opening up the merchant window, right? So that's what I want to do, right? But what if I'm greater than 20? And this where it really comes down to letting your users know what the problem is. And in this particular case, we're going to do an else statement inside of the already else statement. You can see kind of how this chains out. So if the macro.return equals true, if the window's open, then I'm going to go ahead and notify that tab, right? And if it's not, then I want to check and see if I am close enough to the vendor that I want to right click them. But if I'm not, then what do I need to do? I need to let the user know what the problem is, or try to move closer to the vendor. But since I don't have move utils or MQ2 nav, I don't think I have move utils. Which copy is the right copy here? This is the one I just did. So I do not have either of those things. And I could grab a copy and just recompile real quick, but I'm just not ready for that. Then I want to echo, and I'm going to do the \AR, which is a red color code to let it know to display this information in red. You are not close enough to the vendor. Please move closer and try the macro again. /end, right? So we can get into the more user-friendly stuff, such as automating the movement and things of that nature later, and possibly even by request. But right now, we just want to say, hey, if I'm not at the vendor, then I want to go ahead and right-click on the vendor, right? So before we even get into doing anything main loop-wise, I want to test what I already have. It's not much. I check my plugins, I check my windows, right? And what's a plugin that I have? I can do /plugin list, and let's check for MQ2 HUD, just to check our subroutine works, right? So I'm going to come up here and say /call check plugin MQ2 HUD, right? And that's just going to make sure it's loaded. So we can verify that it's doing what I expect it to do by making it a block statement and then saying echo what was not loaded. And this is case sensitive, so I need to go back here and fix that, make it a lowercase w. Right, so it wasn't loaded. Else, if it was loaded, I want to echo what was already loaded. Right, so and then I can do color code /AG for green, AR for red, and then save that, right? So in this particular case, I'm doing a tab select, right? So I click right target, and now I need to make sure that the window's open, honestly. So I need to delay 3 seconds or until window merchant wind dot open. All right, and I typed that manually because I don't want to call the window check, then process a return, etc. I just want to delay until that's done before I proceed into the main loop because I need to make sure that the parcel vendor's window is open, maybe, right? So what did we name this? We got Mac Parcel, right? So /Mac Parcel. Yeah, so as you see, I forgot to target the NPC. When you program in macros, you said you have to move over. Oh, okay. Yeah. No worries, man. Just whenever you get a chance, and then you can always review the footage after the fact. All right, so I forgot to target the NPC where it says you must have a target selected for click X target. I never told the macro to target the NPC, and if you don't tell it to do something, it doesn't know to do it. Right? So where do I need to put that in at? Well, when I check my window here, right? If the window's already open, then I'm going to go ahead and select the third tab because the window's already open. But if it's not open, right? So if the spawn right here, if their distance is less than 20, then I said to click right on the target. But first, I need to target that target, right? So I want to target ID spawn equals vendor dot ID. Okay. And then I want to wait, let's say 5 milliseconds. Yeah, you know, you don't have to put like an early release on it. 5 milliseconds is so fast, nobody's really going to notice that too much. But you need a delay after you target something, or it's going to immediately try to right click it, and the game won't have processed that information yet. Kind of like when I did a click right target, I got this 3-second delay with an early stop condition, which is if the window opens or is presented as open. Okay, so once you do that, you want to make sure you save. In Notepad++, mine changes from red, meaning something isn't saved, so I can put a space and it changes it to red here. And then if I Control S, it saves it. So I've been saving it over and over this whole time, but I've been using a hotkey to do so. All right, so then I can /Mac parcel. Right, so my macro ended before everything finished processing from the looks of it. And we see my output here, MQ2 HUD was already loaded. Let's MQC, which is macro quest clear, and it's going to clear my macro quest window, and that gives me a fresh look at what's going on, so I don't have to go, well, was this from before when I did it, or was it from this time? So I can /Mac parcel again, and it runs through the code so fast it ends before it even tells me that the HUD was already loaded, but it does target the MPC, and it does target or open the merchant window, right? All right, so we know that that bit is working so far. Okay, so once the merchant window is open, right, I need to do this same notify. I need to make sure that I am going to the third tab. So come down here and paste that exact same code in, and I'm going to notify the merchant windows, sub windows, that I want to select the third tab. Right, and now I can save it, and then we're going to retest. Right, so I can MQC /Mac parcel, and as you can see, it opened the window and clicked on the parcel tab already. So while it may take some time to type this stuff in manually, once you get the code working, everything goes really fluidly. Typically, if you don't have a really slow computer, but for slow computers, that's why I added in this 3-second check, is to make sure that you have plenty of time to open the window. And then for those of us with faster computers, I have an early stop for the delay coded in so that it'll stop delaying once the window is open, and then it'll go ahead and notify the merchant sub window to select the third tab. Yeah. Hey, what's going on, Setsuni? Hi back to you, and thank you for the follow. Sets a wow. All right then, good to see you, man. All right, so I've got it opening the parcel vendor that I want. Again, I don't have any of the navigation plugins compiled right now, so not really going to go over that, but I can Mac parcel all day long, and it will target the vendor that I've specified inside the file, and it will select the parcels windows. Okay, so what's the next step? Well, the next step is to check my bags for stuff, right? So I need to close this. I need to just close that because I'm not parceling my gear, right? So I can open my window here. Let's move some of this stuff over, and we're going to put it over here, right? So I can see all of the things that are visible. And this is a general supply vendor. And what's useful about that is I can now spend my whole 6 platinum to buy something cheap, right? Like fishing gloves or grubs, not gloves. So quest and ammo, it goes in your ammo slot. Is it a food or anything? Am I going to eat it? I shouldn't eat it, right? So then I can see I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got plenty of slots available. So I'm gonna just buy some fishing grubs, and we're gonna separate those into smaller stacks. Well, I say I'm gonna separate them into smaller stacks, but I'm still in the merchant window, right? So we'll just get some arbitrary stack information here, right? And basically what I'm wanting to do right now is I'm wanting to create a sub that opens my bags, and then it checks every item in my bags to be a trade skill item. So you can see a Batwing is a trade skill item, and you can see it says it's a trade skill item here. But now we're going to need to get the information that says it's a trade skill, right? So we're going to refer back to data.mac for a couple of different things at this point. But the first thing I want to do is I want to create a subroutine that opens my inventory window if it's not open, right? And then I want to see where my bags are, get the size of the bags, open all the bags, and then go through the contents. And then I want to check each item in the bag for something. Okay, and then based on the details that I retrieve from that, uh, on whether or not I'm going to want to do something with it, right? So the idea for the macro as it was presented from me or to me was that they wanted to open your bags, go, okay, that's a trade skill item, and then send it to some designated individual. Maybe we do /Mac parcel and then we put tune name here, right? So where the tune name here is down at the bottom, that's who we're wanting to send it to. So we can just do a Mac parcel to name here. Or since I got this set up to run as on a main loop, which is the idea that I have for it, then I can do something like create a bind that receives a command. So instead of doing Mac parcel to name here, I just run the ParcelBot. And then once it's running, then I can issue it a command that I've created, such as slash um, send, right? So /send would be my command, and then trade skill would be what I want to send, and then person to send to goes there, right? So then I can create something that does something like that. And, I mean, it's going to take a bit to get to that point, but don't worry, we'll get there. But again, I still have a lot of stuff to do. I have to check all these bags, and I got to make sure my inventory window is open, which I am typing into the chat box instead of hitting I to open my inventory. And speaking of hitting I to open my inventory, something that I've noticed is that a lot of people change their hotkeys. I am no exception to that, and because of that, I've actually started using something called /window state. And we can go into the wiki here. And now it's not necessarily super efficient or anything, but the thing about that is it's hard to be efficient when you're creating something that somebody else is going to use because you just don't have enough information to know what they're doing. I don't know if you're using the default UI. I don't know if you've changed your hotkeys because I could just issue a slash key press I and that should open your inventory, but that's not the case for everybody. And getting that kind of information from somebody can be quite difficult. And in the long run, you want people to just be able to open your macro and it just work. They don't want to have to worry about whether or not they have the default hotkeys, right? So in this particular case, we got Windows state, and this is going to help us achieve that result without having to worry about what hotkeys the user has, right? So in this particular case, it says window, state, inventory, merchant, corp, spellbook, map, notes, open, close, etc. Right? So it can open or close the specified window. Okay. This will probably lag me a little bit, but there is a command /window, and it will list every frickin' screen item, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes. Okay. And it's literally listing all the same things that I can just mouse over and get. So I know that this is inventory slot 13, that's 24, 32. I can mouse over and see this information, but as you can see, MacroQuest, you use that /window command and it just goes for days, right? So there's 1948 windows found with uh, any possible name, right? That it just peeled through. And we aren't necessarily wanting to do that. Now, since I can see the name of the window, I can hover over the inventory window and I can say window inventory. Inventory is not available, so we go window inventory window. And it's going to tell me all the children to that window. And as you can see, it's a long list and it just keeps going and going and going and going, right? And that checks every single possible tab, every sub window, every text box, you know, and realistically using that as an option just isn't as efficient as using the quick mouse over to see what it is that you're trying to get information about. Okay, so and that's one of the reasons why I use the MQ2 HUD for this particular case, because I can just mouse over something and see the name of it. And now when we go for window state, we need the name of the primary window, and we give a window state, inventory, window, right? So if I close this and I issue that statement with the word open on the end of it, it should open my inventory window. So I hit enter and ta-da, it says window inventory is now open. Now, window state will not necessarily work for every possible window in the game because some windows are only capable of being opened under some conditions. Like, for example, I need to walk up to a merchant and right click on them in order to open up the merchant window. If I try to issue a window state merchant WND open, it could crash the game, and rightfully so. It probably should, to be honest with you. Just to let you know that, maybe you should quit trying to do things like that. But in my particular case, I'm using it to open my inventory window, and I will also use it to open up other windows as needed um, throughout various macros. In fact, if you go to the resources and download my macros, you'll often find that I use the window state command for that, right? So I'll issue window state inventory window, and if you don't put anything, it just tells you the status, I believe. So I can open, and then let's do that again with nothing in there. And it just it tells you its current state, right? So you have to say open or close. So if I want to close it, then I put close at the end, and ta-da, it closes the window. All right, I know I'm going really fast and kind of covering a lot of information that I've never even touched base on. So if there's a question that you have, please ask it. And if I have enough common sense to look over at my other monitor and see your question at some point and stop rambling, then I'll answer it to the best of my ability. And that's really the purpose of doing it as a live stream, as opposed to just coding it in the background and then trying to do a video tutorial about it with nobody present. Pineapple on pizza. I am not a fan of pineapple on pizza personally, but hey, to each their own. If you want pineapple on your pizza, you go for it, dude. Does this record so I can watch later? It certainly does. This will be available on my live streams, previous video clips, for I think 7 or 14 days. So you should be able to watch this for anywhere the next week to 2 weeks. I'm not really sure. And then once it starts getting old, I actually copy the videos back off of Twitch, and then I upload them to my YouTube channel. Broken Robot as one word, and then games as the second word. So you can subscribe to me on YouTube as well, but the videos come later as far as YouTube is concerned. All right, so let's get back to where we were at. So we have our macro here. We've already got a couple of things it's checking out. We make sure we're close enough to the vendor. We right click on him. We click on our parcels tab. What else do we want to do? Again, we're going to need our bags. So going back to my data.ini, I remember something about containers, right? So container right here. And I believe .container will return the size of the container, and this pertains to the item TLO. So what we can do is say /if, let's just echo real quick. So echo me.inventory, and then I believe that is, it should be 23. If I mouse over it, you see how it says inventory slot 23. That lets me know that if I want to do a me.inventory, it should be 23, though. Don't quote me on that. We're about to find out for sure. .container. So if I echo that, it says 8. And if you look at the container's information, the capacity is 8, right? So that means we're about to start getting into some for loop stuff, right? All right, but first things first, let's start checking our inventory. We're going to create another sub, containers open. Now, there's multiple ways that you can handle this. We're going to have to go through each container anyway, so it's kind of neither here nor there. See, your overlay is covering certain things, by the way, like that. Oh, thank you for letting me know. I should really pay attention to where some of the things on my overlay are. Let me, uh, let me pull this up over here and see if I can't go into the editor here. Hey, look, everybody dizzy yet? All right, so I can actually grab things and move them around. So maybe put this down at the bottom somewhere. Well, I can't see shit now. What is that? That's probably the chat window I just grabbed. My bad. All right, so let's move this maybe down here. Is that going to be in the way of anything? Well, let me move to the other screen so I can see what I'm looking at. No, that should be okay, right? You think that's okay? Might be a touch big. But, just make it smaller like that, and then where in the hell did that chat box go? I think I might have two chat boxes. Looks better. Yeah, that's better. I agree. I actually made it smaller too, so I don't know if your response came in. So okay, so here's the second chat box. Let me delete one of these chat boxes. I have no idea why I have two on there. All right, so we have deleted the one chat box, right? And apparently, oh goodness, I done deleted something else too. I don't know if I can control Z that back. No, I can't. Oh well, screw it. Look, if anybody else follows, I'm sorry, but the notification's not going to pop up on screen because I just deleted that box and I really don't want to sit here and figure that out while I'm supposed to be going over this. So we'll get back to that bit later. I'll fix it before my next video, maybe the second coming of this video even. Okay, so again, we were going through our bags, and as I said, if I mouse over this, it shows inventory slot 23. If I go to the next one, it says 24, so on and so forth. So this is the order it's going to check stuff, as left to right and then up to down, right? So it zigzags down this way. Now I could technically just do a notify command, so I could slash notify, and what we got, inventory window inv slot 23, right mouse up to right click on that bag, right? So I can move my mouse and I hit that right click and it opens and closes the bag for me. So but I don't necessarily need to do that, because one of the things that are built into EverQuest here, and I can close all that and I can say key press open inventory bags, I think it is. Yeah, there we go. So open INV bags with underscores in between, and it'll open all my bags. So I don't necessarily have to know which ones are containers and which ones are not containers. I can just say slash key press open inventory bags, right? And that's going to open all of my bags. But I also want to Windows state open, or no. So inventory window open. All right, once I do that, some things that have caused issues in the past is the bags would be open and your macro would immediately try to read the contents of the bag. But the macro, or I'm sorry, EverQuest hadn't yet put the items per se in the bag when you started, so you would be trying to look at stuff that doesn't exist. It would be null when it wasn't. So you need to make sure that you delay for some amount of time, and just to be sure, we're going to say a solid 1 second, right? And then after that, you can start processing the information about the bag. In this particular case, we can do a for loop, but let's declare the variable I as an int local, so it's a local variable, and then I always just assign it the value of 0 when I declare it. I don't have to do that. I just do, right? And then I want to do a for loop. So for I, starting at 1, 2, and then I need some arbitrary number, right? And what is the arbitrary number? You know, I don't know if the bag's container size is 8. I don't know if the bag's container size is, 15, 40, or whatever it is these days, right? There's so many different size bags. I could just check up to 100 and say if there's no slot there, then to stop looking, and I could do it a couple different ways. But we want the bag size in this particular case. So we've opened all the bags, and we're going to start checking for the container size. So we can do, me.inventory, and then we're going to say, do we want to do I? Yeah, we'll do I, but we're going to do that slightly different. Instead of starting at 1, we want to start at 23. Remember, 23 was the first slot, and then if we come down here, the last slot is 32. So actually, we want to check all the bags, and then we'll just say 32. So we're going to make it a solid 23 to 32, and down twice, we're going to say next I, and then we're going to insert the body. I like to always put my closing statements in there and then insert the body of the statement. Just keeps me from forgetting to do so later on, right? So what do we want to check about each of those containers? Well, if me.inventory, sorry, let's see, I.container. And if you recall, I checked me.inventory 23.container and it returned a number. And for something to pass as a condition check, if you didn't watch my condition tutorial, it has to be any non-zero number. So a -1 passes, and a positive 100,000 passes. As long as it's not 0, it's a passing value, right? So in this particular case, I'm saying if the inventory item is a container, then I need to check information about it, right? And I'm just hitting all kinds of crazy keys over here. All right, so once I've determined that the item is a container, and I now know that it has a container size, then I need to check each item inside of the container. So me.inventory I.item, right? Let's try item.name. So we can copy this, and I know that my first bag is a container, and I can say for the inventory item 23.item, maybe that's an array, item 1. We'll try it that way, right? Dot name. So we're going to copy that over, and then we're going to echo the information and see what it returns. It says piece of rat fur. Okay, that means this is my first bag, and this is not. So my bags are out of order. That's good to know, right? But it's going to check, and it's going to say that the dot name for that item is the piece of rat fur. So what else could I check? Dot trade skill. Oh, it's not finding anything. So let's go in our data.mac and let's find trade skill. And it's trade skills with an S. It's very specific. First letter is capital. So I can scroll up here and just paste it in, and it's going to say true. So it is a trade skill item, right? So that's what we want to check it for. So we can go back to our Parcel.mac over here, and we know that that is the correct way to look at it. But now we have a new number that we're going to have to cycle through. So if the item is a container, then we need a new for loop, right? So HIN / declare J int local O. I use J's, it's HIJK, etc., on and so forth, etc. All right, man, see you later, addict. And then I just add to my loop. So if it is a container, then for J, one to me.inventory I.container. Because remember, it's going to return the size of the container. So from 1 until I get to the end of the container, then I want to check for something. But I got that in there still, so I need to next J. And then for this, I want to check if this, let's say item J dot trade skills. That's what it was, right? Close. So if it's a trade skill item, then, and this is where I'm going to leave a comment. Then I need to parcel the item. But first, what other thing might I want to do? I might want to verify it's not on an exclusion list. I haven't created an exclusion list yet, but you can pretty much bet that somebody's going to have an exclusion list of shit that they don't want to send. Such as if they want to send trade skills, but they don't want to send their water, because water is a trade skill item. They might decide they want to drink that water at some point, or some other trade skill item that you don't want to send that you might be using, such as bat wings for levitation at lower levels. So we need to create an exclusion list, and then we also need to go through the motions of how to actually parcel an item. All right, so instead of me typing out the code that's going to go through every single bag and say, if me.inventory1 is a container, then do all this stuff, and then me.inventory2 is a container, I use these for loops, and the for loops is going to start at, in this particular case, 23 and go to 32. And again, the reason for that is because this is inventory slot 23 and 24, etc., on until it gets 32 at the very end. So it's going to check each one of those containers for me in a loop, and it's going to ask each one of them the same thing. If you're a container, then for every item, according to your container size, I want to check to see if the item in inventory slot, whatever it happens to be, let's say 23, and then I'm going to check item 1, because J starts at 1, and then I'm going to check item 2 and 3 and 4, etc., to be a trade skill item. And every time one of those is a trade skill item, then I'm also going to need to do this stuff. All right, so instead of me typing 500 lines of code to do that, I do this in these for loops, and I nested them inside of each other so that I can check both things at the same time. All right, so I'm going to verify it's not on an exclusion list, but I don't have an exclusion list, so let's go make one. Right, so up here I declared variables. All right, so I need to declare exclusion list. Right, and how do I want to declare the exclusion list? I can say string outer and then give it some value. How would we want to do that? So I could say diamond, pipe, bear, gorilla, whatever I'm trying to avoid. Let's use something that I have. So rat fur, and then pipe and bat wings. Right, let me make sure that those are the exact names. So I got piece of rat fur and bat wing. Right, so let's do PIECE of rat fur. And now keep in mind that this method here, this exclusion list as a single string, is only going to be so effective because you're limited to 2048 characters. So if you feel like the exclusion list is going to be much larger than that, or even get close to that, let me know in the comments real quick, and I can actually choose to try it a different way. But in this particular case, we can do this and check to see if we can find that information. right? So we're going to do that now. So if, let's get my bracket sorted out. If me dot inventory I dot item j dot name dot find. So no, I don't want to find the name in that. I want to actually compare that with the exclusion list. If exclusion, oh, I totally missed the C when I typed it earlier. Let me go fix that real quick. EXCL. Right, so that looks right. EXCLUSION list, okay. Not that it really matters as long as I'm consistent with what I use. So, then I want to check if exclusion list dot find the information there, right? And all I'm getting there, so I'm saying if I find the item which is named at the inventory I, which is, we'll say, the first one, and the name, which is the J slot, which would be the first slot, is found on this exclusion list, then let's output some information for the user. And it'll just be converted to a debug statement later. So I can echo the item is on an exclusion list. And that is not a variable, obviously. I didn't save the item to a variable. Some would argue that I should. I don't really care what some think most times. It's not a very big macro. It's not going to bog down your computer. So I'm not going to set it to a variable. It's not that serious. All right. So this item is on the exclusion list, and then it's going to tell you the item in theory, right? At some point, I'm going to have to call containers and check this. So we're still not going to do a main loop. We'll actually comment out the goto, and we'll just call containers. Right, so scroll down here, containers, etc. So let's mac parcel and see what happens. /mac parcel. Oh, it looks like we got an error in there. I forgot to close the parenthesis, or I'm sorry, the bracket here. So I say me.inventory23.container, and I don't close the squiggly bracket. So we can see that that is right there because it tells me, right up here, ParcelBot.mac at 56. So I go to line 56, which is right here, and I can see that I forgot to close that bracket. Right, so let's check the others. Seems okay to me. And close our macro and all our windows and try it again. So mark Mac parcel. Alright, so as we can see, the item is on an exclusion list. It found the piece of rat fur in the exclusion list, and it found the bat wing in the exclusion list. I don't have anything that I could test per se that has similar name, like a blue diamond versus a diamond. But sometimes you have to worry about that because you can find the word diamond in the word blue diamond, right? And a way we can fix that is you'll see I put the pipes on both sides of the word, okay? And that lets it know this is the start and this is the end, right? So I can put the pipe in the search for the find on both sides of it as well, and now it will only find it if it begins and ends with a pipe. Okay, obviously that's something you're going to have to tell your users, and they'll have to